history of the familiar presence of the nativity scene, around which we will gather in the coming days in our homes and in church. In different countries and regions, the nativity scene is known as the crib, the crèche in French, presepe in Italian, and die Krippe in German. Nativity scenes recount the birth of Christ and his adoration, as told to us in the Gospel by Luke and Matthew. In 2019, Pope Francis, in his apostolic letter Admirable Signum, which means enchanted image, reminded us that the depiction of Jesus' birth is, I quote, a simple and joyful proclamation of the mystery of the incarnation of the Son of God, end of quote. In this deeply moving letter, Pope Francis encourages us to retain, as he says, the beautiful family tradition of preparing the nativity scene in the days before Christmas. Pope Francis delivered this apostolic letter in the village called Greccio, located about 50 miles north of Rome. It was there in Greccio, on Christmas Eve 1223, that St. Francis of Assisi reenacted the world's very first living nativity scene in a cave, as a way to spread the story of Christmas. As part of his own pilgrimage of faith, St. Francis has visited Bethlehem in historical Palestine, the Holy Land, between 1219 and 1220. Upon his return to Greccio in 1223, he decided to recreate the atmosphere of Jesus' birth during that year's Christmas celebrations. This was his way of bringing people closer to their faith through the memory of Christ's birth. So, on December the 24th, 1223, St. Francis organized a midnight mass that included a reenactment of the event, with villagers playing the roles of Mary and Joseph, and a simple rag doll representing the baby Jesus. He even brought along an ox and a donkey to complete the image of Christ being born in a stable. These live nativity scenes became immensely popular, inspiring churches throughout Italy to adopt similar practices. Although over time, actors were replaced by carved stone or wooden figures. And that's the cave where the first nativity was played out. So this is a cave in Greccio. In the late 13th century, Pope Nicholas IV commissioned Arnolfo di Gambio, one of the most influential architects and sculptors of the Italian Middle Ages, to create a nativity scene carved from marble. In the 16th century, it was installed in the Santa Maria Maggiore, one of Rome's 4 major basilicas, and home to the relic of the Holy Crib, believed to be the wooden planks from the manger where the infant Jesus was laid. Nativity scenes continue to grow in popularity, with figures becoming increasingly detailed and scenes expanding into including shepherds, angels, the Magi, stars, taverns, marketplaces, and local architectural features. One of the finest examples, we can see here on the screen, can be found in Rome at the Church of Saints Cosmas and Damian, adjacent to the Roman Forum, created by Neapolitan artists in the 18th century. By the 16th century, nativity scenes also had become popular in the home of the people throughout the world, reflecting local cultures through unique materials and imagery, from Italians' elaborate Neapolitan scenes and German wooden carvings to Peru's indigenous interpretations, the Philippines' vibrant designs, in contemporary African and Asian representations. Despite their diversity, they all celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ through the shared figures of Mary, Joseph, and the child. And it is wonderful to realize that a tradition initiated more than 800 years ago remains so deeply cherished and widely celebrated today. The city of Rome even hosts an international crib exhibition under the colonnade of St. Peter's Square. This annual exhibition features over 100 nativity scenes from Italy and around the world, ranging from traditional 18th century Italian cribs and 19th century Roman manger to modern interpretations made of wood, papier-mâché, terracotta, and even unconventional materials such as sand, rice, and metal. However, for those who are not planning to travel to Rome in the next few weeks, there are beautiful nativity scenes that we can see closer to us. And for example, this is the nativity scene that is being put up every year in front of a 20-foot blue spruce at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And then also there's the nativity scene at the Chicago Art Institute, which is also out there during Christmas, Advent time and Christmas, and then they put it away because many of the costumes, they are silk and satin, and they can't be exposed to light for too long. So there's a limited time in the year that this can be seen. And also, we are setting up our own nativity scenes, which we are so work with in anticipation. There's some probably family traditions about it and nostalgia. Some probably have inherited their nativity scenes from their mothers and parents, and so they're very dear to our heart. One comment to that, because nativity scenes are three-dimensional and often extremely intricate, they're rather difficult to choose them as a single works of art and to be included in our visual reflection in this art series. So that's why I decided to use that as an introduction. However, within the fine arts, the Nativity remains one of the most recognizable scenes in Christian art, surpassed in popularity only by the crucifixion, its historical and theological counterpoint. And with this brief introduction to the Nativity, I now would like to delve into our first work of art of the evening. It is entitled Seeing Shepherds, created in 2011 by the contemporary American artist Daniel Bonnell. And as I introduce the artist, you can follow along in the handout on it. Daniel Bonnell was born in 1955. He holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Atlanta College of Art and a Master of Fine Arts in Painting from the Savannah College of Art and Design. He studied under acclaimed artists including Ansel Adams, Milton Glaser, and Ed Ross. In 2018, he was awarded the Brother Nathan Kroschran Award in Sacred Arts, receiving Best in Show in the biannual Catholic Sacred Art exhibition featuring over 100 entries from 4 countries. Bonnell is recognized throughout the United States, England, and Israel as one of the few notable sacred painters of the 21st century. His work is held in private collections, cathedrals, and churches around the world. Renowned theologians frequently reference his art as contemporary examples of modern iconography in their writings and book covers. These theologians include Alistair McGrath of the University of Oxford and King's College in London, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and Franciscan contemplative and author Richard Rohr. Bonnell does not identify himself as a Christian artist, but rather as an individual who follows the teaching of Christ and expresses those teachings throughout visual form. He's not affiliated with any denomination, organization, or institution. However, his work reflects a Franciscan ethos rooted in kenosis, a life posture of humility and self-emptying. Bonnell employs the Lectio Divina approach in the creation of his paintings, allowing himself to attentively read, reflect, pray, and contemplate scripture as an integral part of his artistic process. His work gained international recognition following a solo exhibition at St. Paul's Cathedral in London in July 2004. The Road Home, a book documenting this special exhibition, was published in conjunction with the show. Since then, Bonnell has become a sought-after artist for publishers worldwide, creating book covers that convey a non-traditional, neo-expressionist approach to theology and scripture. Bonnell is also the author of Shadow Lessons, a book that explores the challenges and insight gained from teaching art to at-risk inner-city high school students. He's a contributing writer for Art Pulse magazine, which reviews the work of contemporary artists from around the world. As you consider our first work of art of this evening, I would like to quote from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 8, 9, and 13. Now there were shepherds in that region living in the fields. The angel of the Lord appeared to them, and suddenly there was a multitude of heavenly hosts with the angel, praising God. And now I would like to open the floor to your thoughts, impressions, and reflections. Please feel free to share them, and Amelia will help us with the microphone tonight. And remember, it's important to use it even for us to hear our comments across the room. And I can maybe move in. So yeah, you choose. I can zoom into some of the aspects of the painting. Anyone?
I really love this. I mean, I've never seen this painter before, but I love the movement, and it's very vibrant, and it's great. Thank you.
I agree. It's real dynamic. You've got the roiling clouds, like there's a lot of energy there, and usually this is depicted as a sort of a very pastoral, peaceful sort of a thing. And here, it looks like the angels are streaming toward the stable and the star, and the clouds are roiling around, and there's the light in the foreground that's energetic, and the shepherds are so overcome, it looks like to me.
Yeah.
The sheep are chill.
Yeah, and let's talk about the sheep. Look at this little chap over here. He's absolutely mesmerized.
One of the things my dad always used to say was the light is the lamb and the lamb is the light. And this just makes that really...
It is. That fits really well. Thank you. It is.
Can you go back to where you can see the shepherds?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so striking, just their awe. Like you can just see them like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what is happening? It's so cool.
Oh, there you go.
And if you could reproduce this, would be the best Christmas card ever. I love this.
We've been watching The Chosen, and they did a couple of segments for Christmas things on the shepherd, and have this. They've kind of depict something similar over a couple of minutes with, special effects. But it's amazing how much he captured that in one painting, that same kind of feeling, because it's I think at one point said, "You got to see this." Well,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it'd be hard not to see this.
I'll let the priests who are present correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard this talked about once, this segment or this passage from Luke, and the actual word in Greek that's used to describe the angels is an army.
Yep.
It's usually a heavenly host is how they translate it, but it's an army. So you have to think about it like the Roman legion moving overhead, and that sort of thing. And I think he does a good job of that. This looks almost like an army column moving, So with all that dynamic movement and everything, but the numbers are incredible.
Yes.
We're told, the numbers of angels are so incredibly high, but this depicts that. And what angel that could be there wouldn't want to manifest, at that moment, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And I have actually, in parentheses, have written army, because I have heard that many times, and I find that a very important aspect to that, because it's not just an angel. It was an army. There were hundreds and hundreds of them. And that shows how important this moment was. And with how much it was a small child, vulnerable, but he came with this huge support behind him.
On the my right-hand side, and looking at that, are we looking at the star and then the Jesus' birthplace there? Is that,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So exactly. So I think blow this up a little bit. So there's all the angels are leading us to this place. It's kind of because the shepherds need to find a place. And I understand the painting is they're guiding the shepherds over here, and it's where the Star of Bethlehem is. And right down here is the little cave or the barn where Jesus Christ, you can find him.
We can often have an image of the shepherds as poor, maybe uneducated people, and this certainly changes that image with an army of angels. They look pretty important.
Yes, yeah, I love that.
Well, I can't really speak to the Greek. There is something about the English title that I find so delightfully playful, is that seen is ambiguous. Is it a gerund? Is it a participle? Are we talking about the shepherds seeing, or are we as the viewer seeing the shepherds and being drawn into it? Mm-hmm. And does it need to be either? It can be both. They don't need to be mutually exclusive. That delightful sort of ambiguity that allows us to be participants in the event, even as the shepherds are also seeing the glory that is in front of them.
Yeah, thank you for leading me to that. So the title is Seeing Shepherds. So I think the shepherds are seeing. So, however, the vantage point, the way the painting is painted, we can imagine ourselves standing right here and being part of the event. So this is, if we think back to paintings by Caravaggio, he very often would bring the event that he was painting very close to the edge, and we could participate in it. It's like in the Emmaus, the supper, and the table is so close to the edge that it almost pokes through the surface, and it feels like we could pull up a chair and sit with Jesus. So Bonnell kind of uses a similar technique to invite every one of us to be part of this scene and see these angels for ourselves. Yes.
So I notice you don't mention where this is displayed. Is it somewhere public or not?
So since it's kind of a contemporary art and the contemporary artist, you can go to his website and you could buy a copy of that. Either, I think, as a print, or he would probably paint this also for you as an oil painting. I think there's limited editions of that, but he also you could buy a print. Yeah. So this particular one is not in a museum. No, it's right. So I hadn't listed anything. So. Yeah. And just to extend on that point, it's also, if we look at these sheep, so it's this little one who's absolutely mesmerized, and the light of the angels shines on him, and he's bathing in this beautiful light. The sheep over here, they're a little bit removed looking into it, but still the light hits their face, because if you see the light is so strong, it kind of outlines their faces. And that's sometimes also what if you step onto a stage light, if someone would stand behind you, that's where they would see a bit of a glow around your face. And then one other, so we kind of talked about this, and just for fun, if you would like to go on his website and zoom into this painting, initially it all looks like just different whites and like peach color. But the more you look, the more you see. You see angels, for example, right here, there's an angel with his outstretched arms, and you can see the wings going up here. There's an angel right here with the huge wings. There's an angel here with massive wings. I mean, they definitely have huge wings. So it's beautiful. This is one of these works of art, the more you look, the more you see. And I thought that was just wonderful. It's a very striking painting. And then, yeah, the shepherds echoing the greeting, the greeting, being greeted and taking it all in. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Aside from the heavenly host, an army there, is this kind of his style? Let's say if you just look at the shepherds, when you look at his other paintings, is this kind of what they look like? I mean, it's
he has a wide variety of paintings, but all around religious themes. Contemporary, yes. I mean, it's all, you have to look longer to see what you want to see. Yeah. But amazing works, yes. So, yeah, we can talk about this a little bit more. Kind of the shepherds is a bit the theme that we will see in the first painting and a little bit more in the second. And what Father Mann was saying, it is interesting that it was the shepherds who were called and who were told the good news first, and it wasn't the king or the rich people that were invited. It was everyone. So. So maybe let's move on to the next painting, and we can explore that a little bit more. I would like to leave this painting with the following question: what does the rare appearance of a multitude, heavenly army, signify about the importance of this event? Our second work of art of this evening is The Adoration of the Shepherds. It is a late altarpiece by Guido Reni, painted in 1640 on a monumental scale, possibly commissioned by Prince Karl Eusebius of Liechtenstein. It measures more than 15 by 10 feet and is one of the largest paintings in the National Gallery in London. And it is on display. It is absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. And you can follow along on the handout as I introduce the artist. Guido Reni was born in Bologna in 1575 and began his artistic training in his hometown around 1584 at the age of 9. under the Flemish master Denis Galverd. Approximately a decade later, he transferred to the Artists' Academy, founded by brothers Agostino and Annibale Carraggi, along with their cousin Ludovico Carraggi. Then the leading proponents of the classicizing naturalism that defined the Bolognese school. Reni trained alongside notable contemporaries, such as Domenico and Francesco Albani, before establishing himself as an independent master in 1598. In the early 1600s, Reni moved to Rome, where he worked on a celebrated ceiling fresco of the Casino dell'Aurora in the Palazzo Farnese, one of Rome's most significant architectural landmarks, commissioned by Alessandro Farnese, the future Pope Paul III. During this period, Reni also received several major independent commissions, including the decoration of the Annunciation Chapel for Pope Paul V in the Palazzo del Quirinale. Around 1614, Reni returned to Bologna, where he succeeded the late Annibale Carraggi as the leading figure of the Bolognese school. Reni is best known for his large-scale altarpieces, mythological scenes, and single-figure devotional and secular works. His early paintings demonstrate a refined balance between classical idealism and naturalistic observation. His figures, imbued with grace and monumentality, convey a heightened sense of human emotion. During the 1620s, he developed a distinctive luminous palette and increasingly delicate brushwork, particularly in his masterful rendering of drapery. By the mid-1630s, this style evolved toward a more restrained aesthetic, characterized by a muted palette, looser handling of paint, and simplified compositions. Reni's success supported one of the most active workshops in Europe, at times comprising as many as 80 students, many of whom were trained to reproduce compositions in order to satisfy the growing demand among European collectors. Reni was also known for his eccentric personality, reportedly harboring fears of witchcraft and women, and for his compulsive gambling. Guido Reni died at the age of 67 following a brief illness. As you consider our second work of art of the evening, I will quote from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. So then they went in haste and found Mary and Joseph and the infant lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known the message that had been told them about this child. And yes, again, it's like, how would you describe the painting? Is there anything that draws you in? And again, I can zoom into different aspects of the painting.
And of course, the beautiful light that Jesus is portraying and giving out to everyone. Just a question, is that a basket of bread that's near the...
I looked at it closer. It could be either bread or eggs, because
Okay.
eggs are quite often included in nativity scenes as a sign for renewal, kind of foreshadowing the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
And Bethlehem also is a bread. Doesn't there some association with that Bethlehem bread?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say this is kind of crazy, but those angels look like they're playing with a light fixture and like, woohoo, spinning around. I can't get over that image. But they're very playful up there. It's very different from the other image.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's definitely, as I always say, it's the artistic freedom that artists had to kind of express what they would like to, how they would like to show an angel. So yeah, it can be something like this, really kind of child and sweet, or the angels we saw on the painting before. Yeah, maybe we can focus on this a little bit more. So it's a night scene, and which helps Rennie to really bring out the light of Jesus Christ. He is so bright that he illuminates the space all around him, and he illuminates the faces of all the shepherds and of his mother, the Virgin Mary, and Joseph. So I think that's really beautiful if we kind of look at this small scene versus the big scene, and then we have the darkness still in the back.
I was just kind of struck about the gift of artists in communicating, because we might say this is more of a traditional piece, and the first piece is more contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
But they both have a revealing announcement. And I think that contrast is sort of beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when I choose works of art, I try to do that. Choose works of art from across different time periods, because at the end we see the same message. For example, light. Pretty much every single work of art we saw throughout the Christmas time has the light in it, and has the light of either Jesus himself or the light of God shining through a person. So that's kind of a common thread through all these centuries and through all these paintings, no matter, regardless if they were painted 400 years ago or 20 years ago, and I think that's, or less than 20 years ago. I think that's beautiful.
In this bigger scene, that in the back in the dark, is that more shepherds? Kind of behind
all
the
way
wall?
over here?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's just more shepherds coming,
Okay.
joining in. Yeah, so these are the first ones that arrived. There's some over here, and I think those are more onlookers or more shepherds. Yeah.
And I noticed that there's a young shepherd too in the
Yeah,
front. Yeah.
I think, so we always make these comments. So everyone is in awe of Jesus Christ, and everyone is looking at the baby. However, I thought that was really cute. The little boy, he's kind of looking at the girl. And just, I thought it was really sweet, the way he looks at her, kind of with innocence. And it's either he said, oh, she's just a nice looking young girl, or you could also say, sometimes we believe through others, right? I mean, we might not necessarily see or fully grasp what's happening in front of us, but as we see other people behave in that situation, we're like, yeah, this is good, or this is something I should pay attention to. So I think that's a double way of interpreting the young shepherd looking at the young girl.
Or another way, maybe the young girl's face is lit, but his is not. So maybe he's trying to see what she has and what she sees.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
When I was looking at Mary, her face looked like, this is my child, but I know that I was told that I have to share him. And she just has kind of a possessive look like, but I've been told and I have to. And she looks like she's a little hesitant, but knows she has to.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And also, we talked about color and pigments a couple of weeks ago, and I thought Rennie used that as a method to communicate the position or who belongs together. So Mary, as usual, most of the time wears the beautiful ultramarine robe over her shoulders. And then Joseph wears this bright orange robe over his drapery. And so they're really in very bright, contrasting colors. And then the shepherds are in a much more muted palette. It's just to kind of distinguish, so the Holy Family is in the brighter colors, and the shepherds in a slightly more muted color palette. Yeah, but this is definitely, it's your traditional nativity painting, and it's absolutely gorgeous. In my mind, I don't put a weight on it between something, the first painting or the second painting. They're all wonderful. They all speak to us in their particular way. Yeah, and here we do have the ox and the donkey included. And one might ask themselves, why is there a donkey and an ox included in a painting?
I think I know the answer. So, the way it was explained to me once is that, you know, it's east and west joined together in one place at the nativity. Traditionally the beast of burden in East, in Asia, is the ass, the donkey, and in the West it was oxen. And if we think about Europe, you know, you don't think of using donkeys except maybe in a cart or something like that, but if you're going to plow a field, you go up and get a mule or a horse or something, or oxen were very commonly used, whereas in the East if you see people, old photographs of people I can remember as a kid seeing, like in Life magazine, people in Egypt farming, they actually used donkeys, and that's what was pulling their plows.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think to extend on the donkey in particular, I think also, and we will see it in a third painting, and then it was an animal of service, and it was also the animal Jesus chose when he entered when he entered Jerusalem, and he didn't choose a horse. Again, I think it's to play a little bit on he is the king. We recognize him as a king. He's the king who survived 2,000 years, and not the kings that chose the horse and being dominant and coming in with their obvious armies. Amelia? Oh, sorry, no, sorry, I didn't see that.
Maybe that boy who's looking in the opposite direction, maybe that's Guido, the artist.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't they sometimes insert
yes,
themselves?
quite often we have that. I didn't see a note of that, but yeah, it's true. Sometimes we see the artist implementing themselves and they kind of look at us.
Maybe he's afraid of that girl. 'Cause it says he's afraid.
Yes, yeah. I hear this again and again. When I learned about Rennie years ago, everyone brings it up, that he had something about women. So, I don't know. Okay. Yes. Yes, I think again, this is a beautiful painting, and this is kind of your classic nativity, which we all cherish so much. And I would like to leave this painting with the following question. Why were these humble, often shunned people the right audience for the good news? I would like to conclude this evening's reflection on Advent and Christmas through art with our third and last painting, Rest on the Flight to Egypt, created in 1879 by the French academic painter and illustrator Luc-Olivier Masson. Masson was a French academic painter and illustrator, also renowned for his designs of postage stamps and currency. He was born in Paris, the son of painter and art critic Charles Olivier Masson. He began his artistic training under Charles Chazevent at the École Design and later studied with Isidore Pils, a celebrated French military artist known for his depictions of the Crimean War and the Franco-Prussian War, and who exhibited his work at the Paris Salon. In 1869, Masson was awarded the prestigious Prix de Rome, a French government scholarship that enabled him to study at the French Academy in Rome for several years at state expense. During his 5-year stay in Italy, he focused primarily on religious and historical subjects, which remain central themes throughout his career. Masson received major decorative commissions for prominent institutions, including in Paris, the Palais de Justice, the Louis Pasteur Museum, and the mosaic in the chancel vault of the Basilica of the Sacré-Cœur. In 1894, he was appointed professor of the École des Beaux-Arts. A committed defender of classicism and the academic traditions of the École, he eventually resigned his professorship in protest against what he perceived as a decline in artistic standards within modern art education. His achievements as a painter were recognized with a gold medal and a Grand Prix at the Exposition Universelle in 1889 and 1900, respectively. As an illustrator, his most notable work includes illustrations for The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. In 1900, Masson was designing postage stamps for both France and Monaco, and in 1908 he was commissioned by the Bank of France to produce designs for several national banknotes. In recognition of his contributions to French culture, he was awarded the Legion of Honor during his lifetime. Masson died in Paris in 1920. Following his death, his work fell into relative obscurity due to the rising dominance of avant-garde movements such as Impressionism. Although he was named a Knight of the Legion of Honor during his life, he was posthumously elevated to the rank of commander. And as you observe the painting either on the screen or your handout, I will quote from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, verse 13. "Behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, 'Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him.'" And so, yeah, this is our very last painting before Christmas. And again, something very different than what we have seen in the two works before tonight.
That Egyptian sculpture monument, it looks like a big comfy chair. It looks like she's just sinking right into it.
Yes, yeah.
It's very comfy.
There you go. It is, it almost gives in to the Virgin Mary to kind of makes it comfortable for her. And I don't know if sphinxes always have their eyes up a little bit, but in this painting it is almost it looks up into the sky, and I was comparing this to a Mona Lisa smile. Kind of, she has just this little bit of a smile on her face.
So to me, this painting looks very surrealistic. It almost looks like something that Dali would paint or something. And that Mary and the Christ child are resting in the arms of the Sphinx. The Sphinx was always identified with sort of enigma, riddles and mystery and what is the answer and that sort of thing. And if you look at this, with the light of grace with the Blessed Mother and child, this is the answer to the mystery, to the riddle, to the enigma that we are trying to figure out, So that's how I would view it, as analogous to something, some greater reality.
Yeah.
So there's that line of it looks like light that hits the ground by Joseph.
This one?
And that just intrigues me because, we don't know much about him, but if you think of the incredible strength of character he had to have to go through this experience, and he's often portrayed as an older man, but I like to think of him as a younger man he just had to be physically strong to help Mary and baby, the baby escape, and you look at like the desolation of where they were traveling through. But to me, that's like a sign that he was getting strength from heaven to get through this with them. I think it's kind of cool. It's like a little light of hope there, to me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Again, some of the symbolism as well too that's in the painting. The donkey again, maybe the shepherd's hook. Again, what Jesus is going to be doing. He is our shepherd, and like you had mentioned to Ricky, he does ride into Jerusalem on that donkey. So again, some of the symbolism.
Yep.
And you can tell from the painting, you can just sense how quiet it is there. At that time there were no airplanes flying above or cars driving by. It was just, you can just sense how quiet it is there.
Yeah, the vastness of the land isn't. No interaction with any other human beings probably for a while.
So this is kind of a simple thing, but I don't recall the distance, but it's a long ways. This was not a short going around the corner. And that donkey looks like it was a long ways. But really, I'm so sorry I don't recall, but the distance, it took a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
The Sphinx-like sculpture. I don't know much about, the sculptures of the ancient Egyptians, but the first thing you think of is a Sphinx-like culture. But the face is the face of a modern man. And did the Sphinx-like sculptures, did they have the faces of, the Egyptian leaders, or were they all animal faces? But that looks like the face of, as I say, a modern man. And how common was that, if at all? Or is this something that Meursault did as a kind of signature, variation in this picture?
So the only thing I know, he himself had never been to Egypt. So he relied on images that were brought back, in particular Bonaparte, when he had went on this Egyptian exhibition, 1798 to 1801 or something, and they brought back a lot of drawings from the Egyptian culture. And so I think it is said this Masson had access to these drawings and probably based this on some of the drawings. But again, he might have had some artistic freedom to modify the face to something more contemporary at that time, not contemporary to today.
A quick Google check says 450 miles.
Oh,
Jerusalem,
right.
Egypt.
On a donkey, yeah,
Yeah, poor donkey.
that definitely takes a moment, doesn't it?
But
Yeah.
that also kind of strikes me, and I think you mentioned it, that this just seems so desolate. And even if it wasn't, that kind of distance and that kind of just the trials and tribulations of that trip, and God's instructing Joseph and his family to do this. And that's just a tremendous leap of faith to do that.
Yeah.
Say, we're going to do what? On a donkey? Wow.
Yeah, and it's the fact that Joseph, as we so many times reflect on him, he didn't speak, or we don't have spoken words of Joseph in the Bible, but he acted. And again, an angel came to him, asked him to do something, and we see in the painting, he did it. He took his wife and he took his child, and he did what was necessary. So I think this is, again, he proves himself again and again. And he kind of rests on the edge here, and when he was saying his shepherd's hook or his walking stick lying there, and the donkey just nibbling away on a little bit of grass that's available to him right there. And I think what is striking in this painting as well, particularly compared to the two other paintings we saw, they were busy. The first paintings were busy. There was lots going on, and they touched us emotionally. Certainly me. This one is kind of the opposite. It is so sparse and so empty, but again, it touches me. I think hopefully you as well, because of this emptiness. And just looking at this, and it might be distorted because it has been photographed of a photograph and it's now on this. It's almost hard to tell what it is. Is it a desert, or it could be almost like an ocean? So again, we're not quite sure where they are situated in the world at this moment in time. It is like a little bit Dali, or maybe you want to.
Yeah, I had the same feeling as Michael had, that this was very Dali-esque, which is ironical in that he resigned his academic position in protest against the emerging art styles. I mean, Impressionism in the 1870s, but surrealism much later in the early 20th century. When I looked at this, I thought, gosh, this maybe is the first surrealist painting. I mean, it's so striking. And 2 or 3 years ago, you showed a Dali picture of Holy Saturday with a vast kind of desert between two mountains and fishermen and boats, just lying in the sand and not knowing, what was happening, and, they couldn't figure out what had happened, and they were in no man's land. But that reminds me of that picture. So it's ironical that he complained about the emergence of surrealism and whatnot outside of the salon, but this is just an amazing. I mean, it's hard to forget this picture.
Yeah, and just again, one more time, the last time, the light of Jesus Christ illuminates everything around him. So, And yeah, with this, I would like to conclude this evening and finish with the question, do we, as Joseph did, pay attention to God's guidance in order to protect our family? And thank you very much for coming and listening, and Merry Christmas.